Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. So, the whole saga about Shakespeare being cancelled and how I spent a considerable amount of my valuable time talking yesterday about how this story seemed incredibly fabricated and how it ultimately resulted in the fact that I did not believe in this story about Shakespeare being cancelled. The reasons why I gave it was because Shakespeare will continue to be talked about, and how the New York Post was apparently one example we used to talk about the story, and they said that Shakespeare encouraged, and I quote, white European supremacy without any sort of quote whatsoever to attribute to this blasé statement. Neither was there any comments from people who, well, I know they did reports from Stratford-upon-Avon about how they seemed to be buckling under the pressure and decided they were going to cave into demands. But where are these demands? And what do you mean people are going to stop being talking about them? How is that going to work? And now we cut to another story by GB News. Now, I'm not going to go over the controversies that GB News have gotten themselves into. Well, all I can say for you right now, guys, is that GB News is a news network that's not even owned by a British man. As far as I'm concerned, it's owned by an Australian. So it's not really done in the interest of fairness, because that's one of the things, is that GB News has been heavily criticised by Ofcom and by standards regulators about not exactly being fair and, impartial towards their opinions. Because, to be honest, that's the main source of controversy with GB News, is that it's not news, it's narratives and opinions that they're trying to report, not things that are completely unbiased. But with that being said, Nana Akua is going to apparently start this story about apparently give your heads a wobble. Shakespeare cancelled by snowflakes over white supremacy fears. So fears of what? How many of you guys out there? We'll get to this eventually. But how many of you guys have you ever heard of the phrase "fear of the mob"? The mob supposedly is meant to be such low animals that they would be considered dangerous if they had work or leisure. And yet, I feel as if, fear of the mob is very much a superstitious fear. It's based on nothing, or pretending the idea that though intellectuals, or even amongst the poorest of the working class, who will suddenly become too clever and start challenging conventions. Unlike other people, we could just say it's them lot who are at fault. But again, because they don't actually give any sort of claim, or at least the New York Post didn't, they didn't interview anybody, they didn't quote anybody. So, is there actually any weight to this whatsoever, or is it just so it undermines people's opinions of people who disagree? Well, but like I said again, this seems like a non-story that, again, it's not going to stop me learning about Shakespeare, and neither should you guys. Remember the old adage, guys, love all, trust a few, do wrong to none. All's well that ends well, by William Shakespeare. Just so you understand that I understand who says I'm not cultured. But with that, and who says white people have no culture? But with that being said, let's get to it, shall we?
Name the play. Romeo, Romeo, where art thou, Romeo? Exactly. Romeo and Juliet, very good. All right, how about this one? If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that sufficing the appetite may sicken, and so die. 12 now, very good. All right, how about this one? Final one. This was the noblest Roman of them all. Yeah, Julius Caesar. Correct. Right. They are great works from the man himself, William Shakespeare. A phenomena around the world. The only problem is, he's a white male. Time for decolonisation, my friend. Shock, horror. Englishman who's a white male, writes about English experience, becomes a global learning tool for over 500 years, then gets cancelled by snowflakes.
You know what? I'm actually, you know what? This is unprecedented, guys. I'm actually going to end it right there. That, not even a minute in, and I'm gonna. Nana, I'm sorry. Listen. Well, actually, no, I'm not sorry because, well, let me put it. I would have given GB News 5 more seconds, to be fair, but you know what? Playwright's birthplace to be decolonized over cultural superiority. Well, they say that, but are they actually going to do that? Good question. And to be honest, I can't see this happening anytime soon. But because remember, Shakespeare had nothing to do with colonization. He had nothing to do whatsoever with, the slave triangle. He had nothing to do with that. He was a playwright. He didn't have anything to do with, transporting millions of Africans across the continent. He had nothing to do with that. And here's the thing. I would have seen Nana's point of view maybe a little bit further, but unfortunately, she delivered her... I can't even really call it a lecture. I call it more of a bollocking more than a lecture. But she delivered it in such an aggressive and patronizing way that it's so difficult to, say if there is any weight to it. Because, they talk about this and I'm skimming through this and they keep coming back to Nana and she just... She looks like she's half scowling with disgust every single time. It's a completely one-sided argument, and I must be honest, guys. Well, I'm actually good. You know what? Maybe part of me thinks I should probably listen to more of this. Oh, look about that? They put up pictures of. Let me skip this a little bit through because apparently they showed Keir Starmer for some reason in this. And, well, there you go. Now we're sort of getting to it. Is it because they think that it's something we can blame Labour for? Is this the logic that we can just say it's all Labour's fault? Is that what we're going to go for? Okay, she talked about Othello being played by black actors. Yes, I know that. I studied Othello when I was in secondary school. Yeah, okay. And well, what's wrong with that? That there's never been anything wrong with that. And guess what? I knew that, but guess what? Maybe they didn't know that, but that's the thing as well, is that people who straight up have done their homework and they know anything at all about Shakespeare and they know about what's things like green world theory, and they know for those who are actually educated to know will know fine well there is no argument here whatsoever about this situation. Of course Shakespeare is not going to be cancelled. We know that Shakespeare was 500 years ago. Everybody knows fine well the standards were obviously different. There wasn't even such a thing as a female actor performing in the Globe. It was all performed by men wearing, wigs, dresses. That the stand. Of course, it was different and stuff like that back then. And I haven't even seen a single episode of Upstart Crow, and I can tell you just how it was. And that's the reason why, I'm just gonna stop, looking at this for 1 second, because it's delivered in such a patronizing way, and her repertoire is just to insult people. Why not educate people? If you listen, let's say that GB News, or Nana specifically, because it seems almost like Nana's crusade, but it doesn't seem to be a crusade about defending Shakespeare's honor. It seems more to be about pointing the finger and scowling at each other. But yeah, that's the fit. That's I don't even know where else I'm meant to go with this, apart from, well, it's not about it. I don't think her whole thing is about trying to educate people. It's not about trying to make people see or understand. It's not even trying to see things from their point of view. It is purely one-sided. It is the absolute antithesis to journalism. And let me give you guys a bit of an insight. My dad, when my dad was 16, you know what he wanted to do? He wanted to get into journalism. He went to the Evening Chronicle like at least 4 or 5 times near Grote Street, and he tried to submit in applications to get work experience, and they turned him down every single time. But the case is, guys, is that my dad absolutely gave it his all, and you know what? He's even at 65, and even though my dad has had at least 2 separate strokes in the span of 8 days, he's still forgotten far more than these jokers will ever know, because it's purely one-sided. It's purely designed to tell people what they think they want to hear, which that might also say something about GB News's audience, but we'll see about that. And, well, this is the sort of thing that only, like, it flies completely in the face of those who are serious about journalism and what you should and should not do. And guess what? There's even a thing they do on Talk TV where they say, disingenuous, grifting, race communists. Talk TV have got to be talking out their asses as well, because what on earth are they talking about? That is starting to get the impression that those even working on Talk TV have never actually studied Shakespeare or anything like that. And guess what? I am not surprised and I am not shocked, because there was even what am I even supposed to do? That is just pathetic. So, like I said again, nothing will happen whatsoever. Nothing will change whatsoever. People will continue studying and performing Shakespeare. People will still continue to do that. And this whole thing will lead to absolutely nowhere, because it's not based whatsoever on anything legitimate. It's based on trying to push a narrative that is more about attacking other people than it is actually trying to resolve anything. It's not about journalism. It's not about resolution. It's about conflict. That's what this is all about. And finally, as I know fine well you've probably been I've said at the beginning, anyone who has also studied Shakespeare, not even at school, but just for leisure as well, I'll attribute it to probably my favourite quotes that I'm going to keep using over and over again, is that love all, trust a few, do wrong to none. There we go.